Welcome to Regenerative Renegades. In this podcast, you'll hear the stories of determined, salt-of-the-earth folks who are passionate about the restoration of soil, nature, the renewal of rural economies, and fixing our broken food system. I'm glad you're here. Hope you enjoy this episode of Regenerative Renegades. So it brings us to ACR.
Yeah.
And if you can explain a little bit about what that is.
Sure.
And there's crazy bird people that are going on ranches and they think cattle actually help birds and all those crazy ideas.
Yeah. So, it's kind of started, I guess, about 10 years ago or so, the idea around, there's been studies that have come out, and I know when Anthony was on, you guys talked a lot about the studies that show the precipitous decline in bird populations across the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. The 3 billion birds lost since 1970s study that came out, and some of those really impactful.
3 billion birds lost since the 1970s.
Yeah, just really, really impactful things that are telling us.
Do you know how many species within the 3 billion birds?
That's a good question. I know it affects almost all of them, right? Like,
where's our Joe Rogan assistant? What's his name? Jamie. Could you look that up, Jamie? How many species of birds that?
But out of that, there were two things I think that kind of struck me was that in that big loss, there was signs that shoreline and coastal birds weren't declining as badly or as quickly.
Okay.
And there was a lot of effort that had been put into shorebirds, right? Like, people love the beach, they love the shorebirds, they love those kind of things. And so I think the idea is that if we put effort and we think about ways to conserve these areas and work with the natural systems, that, it doesn't have to be as bleak as it is.
Is it a big part of the habitat? So grassland, like, waterfowl, you got hunters supporting that, the shoreline birds, all of that. So you get into prairie, grassland birds. How do you correlate, or what's correlating those together? Where are you at on that? I mean, because, I hear about grasslands disappearing and I see stats around that. And when you look at agricultural land, you know that it's not grassland,
right?
And a lot of it's monoculture.
Right.
And, for whatever species may like that one monoculture plant, okay, but that it's not diverse. So do you know anything about it?
Yeah. I know that the habitat is the key component, right? And the diversity, and the birds piece of it is that the birds are, telling us what the habitat is like. And so we're losing it to urban development. We're losing it to woody invasion. I just read a study not too long ago that the woody encroachment and woody plant encroachment on grasslands is almost having as much of a detrimental effect on grassland habitat as conversion to either agriculture or conversion to urban development. And so, grassland birds like the big, vast open areas. And so as trees come in, that pushes them away, and they can see that, and that changes their patterns and changes the things that they look for. And that.
So did animals keep woody encroachment in the past at check?
I would, when you think about, Lewis and Clark, and they were on their horses and a herd of bison came through and it took them almost a day to get through.
Right.
I would imagine there was some disturbance.
Because I'm thinking about our experience. We have that woody plant invasion battle all the time.
Yeah.
Because they crop up so easily. And and I'm sure we're suited for that in our eco region here, but I always have mixed feelings. Like, should we be fighting this, or is this the natural order of things, or where's the balance between prairie and woodland?
I think that's the key, is that the balance, right? Like, there's no, just like in the idea, there's no magic bullet that's going to solve all of that problems, whether it's fire or taking out fences or taking away grazing animals or bringing in grazing animals. It's all of those kind of things together. And, the riparian areas that, we work to protect and preserve, there's native woody vegetation that's associated with a lot of those areas.
Sure.
That should be there.
Yeah.
It's important for it to be there. And so again, it's that context and understanding what your ecosystem, what it should be doing. And there's lots of great resources through NRCS that show the transition model. So, they show you successionally, if you have this, what a native prairie would look like and how it's going to change over time with the woody encroachment and loss of native plants and what plants are going to come in.
Yeah.
So understanding kind of what stage you're in and how you can move to different stages of that based on management decisions is really, really impactful stuff. But yeah, it's that, that diversity piece and understanding where everything can fit together.
Wow. Yeah. I've never heard that before, but that's part of losing the grassland.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all of that together. So in the wake of that, and grasslands in the United States are 70% privately owned. When I started in Texas is 97% privately owned.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to have any impact on grassland habitat, we have to work with the producers and stewards that are on the land.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's kind of the genesis of the idea for conservation ranching is let's work with producers. Let's learn how they're, what are the practices that they're doing to create good habitat? How can we then study those areas, learn from them, and share those practices with other producers and try to get more folks to participate in that, and what are our mechanisms for getting, producers to be interested, or incentives or rewards, or, is a lot of folks, it's just a gate sign and a recognition of doing a really good job.
Yeah. I'm thinking about like CRP and land sitting idle. Around here, if it sits idle, it just gets taken over by trees.
Yeah.
And usually what I've witnessed anyway is the very few plants that actually thrive in that environment, like smooth brome around here.
Yeah.
That kind of takes over.
Sure.
And then that's it.
Yep.
So it doesn't even become, at least, I don't know if you can confirm this or not, but from witnessing it, it doesn't even become great habitat. Just setting it aside and leaving it sit, it doesn't seem to be great habitat for anything.
Yep. Yeah, no, you definitely need to have some cycle of disturbance, we talked, whether it was that the grasslands evolved with these massive herds of bison that would come through, and then they wouldn't be back for 2 years or 3 years, and then they would come through and do the big disturbance and really make an impact, and then the recovery period and all of those things.
Yeah.
And the plants need that, like they need to have that disturbance. Or else you can watch a bunch grass of native grass and it starts to rot from the inside out, and it gets rank, and if it's not rejuvenated, and there's lots of studies by people way smarter than me that know that the saliva of a cow grabbing a plant can cause a chemical reaction in the plant to stimulate root growth, and just there's so much more of that just let it rest and leave it alone, and don't graze it, don't disturb it, and like that's not the natural system. That's not how things evolve to be. And
it kind of reminds me of Alan Savory. I just saw a reel about him talking about how he thought the desertification was being caused by too many animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took the animals off, and it got worse.
Right.
So then they're like, oh no, actually we need to double as many animals, or triple.
Yeah.
And then we have something.
Right.
Right. Then it is regenerating, and we do get diversity, and these things start happening, and desertification is reversed. So there's, nature's brilliant. We just need to understand it and replicate it.
I had a great conversation with a rancher in Oklahoma last week or the week before, and he was telling me, he was like, our time on this planet is just this little teeny tiny blip. And so why we think that in our little blip, we know better than Mother Nature, who's been going along for however long you want to believe they've been going on. But for us to come in with this idea that like, oh no, I think I can do it better.
I can improve upon this.
It's let's learn to work with that system that's going to be here long after us and was here long before us.
But yet, in a short period of time in our little blip, we can wreak a lot of havoc.
Make some,
I mean, we can make some bad decisions.
Sure.
But then again, because nature's resilient, if you reverse that, in that same lifetime, you could destroy and rebuild.
Yeah.
That happens that fast.
It does.
And I guess we need that as humans, because it'd be pretty depressing if we couldn't reverse
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the inspiring part of our, your work and our work together, is that, we can regenerate it.
Yep.
It's not, when I was with NCAT, National Center for Appropriate Technology, I was a sustainable agriculture specialist. And even, then we were talking about, should we change? Like, we don't want to sustain where we're at right now.
Right.
We need to regenerate. We need to improve. It's not just about, let's hold the status quo.
No,
we need to.
We're in a bad place.
Yeah.
We can't keep the status quo.
Exactly. We need to make some improvements with an eye towards regrowth and regeneration and those kind of things. So,
yeah. Well, I think along those lines, we're probably going to go for a little walk here.
Okay.
And
excellent. Yeah,
see if we can.
My favorite part is getting out with the.
I made the mistake of thinking that everybody that works for Audubon is an expert birder. And in actuality, they have all these other skills that they apply to Audubon. They don't all come in as birders.
Correct.
They bring in the skills that they need. And it's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But, you have like this thing, like, oh, well, of course, what's that bird there? It's like I found out in a hurry.
I definitely fall into that bucket.
Which is fine. Which is fine. I'm not going to put you on the spot on birds, but yeah, I guess we'll go for a walk and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Jamie has put together something that we can look at. Where have all the birds gone? We're alive in 1970. More than 1 in 4 or 2.9 billion birds in the U.S. and Canada have disappeared within your lifetime if you were alive in 1970. Oh my gosh. So look at larks. Is this the losses? Yeah. Larks down by 67%. Blackbirds, which seem to be everywhere. Now they're down 44%. Man, blackbirds were thick in the 1970s. I can remember that. Sparrows, so many different kinds of sparrows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just can't imagine. Wood warblers down 38%. Finches down 37%. Oh, I love seeing finches. The bird feeder. Swallows. There's all kinds of swallows too that are in trouble. I've seen that in your literature on the bird report, or what do you call it? You have a report that you publish at Audubon.
We have a state of the birds.
State of the birds. That's it. Yep.
Yeah.
And thrushes down 10%. Wow. So, yep, there they are. All birds that we pretty much all have heard of.
Yeah,
and they're
down. The common birds. It's not just
it's not some exotic thing that you've never heard of.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
yeah,
blackbirds of all things. Blackbirds. Man, I just remember thousands of them congregating together.
Sure,
and they would just be thick, and they're down 44%. All right, thank you, Myron, aka Jamie. All right, well, we'll go for a walk.
Okay.
House turns out close to the studio that we're recording in. On this farm was a 70-acre farm this was their pasture, and like most farms, this was a dairy farm that had a pasture right here, some pasture ground that wasn't tillable, and then they had some tillable areas that we have converted to grassland and grazed that as well. Kind of a more typical haying, grazing kind of situation. But a beautiful little farm. And it's been amazing to watch this pasture come to life because the cattle were taken off of it for about 30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was working with the widow that was still here, renting the farm. And she was so happy to get cattle back on the farm. And it's amazing because they earned a living with, 17 dairy cows and 70 acres.
Right. You're not doing that these days.
No. So, and you can see we paddock off. Before it was one big pasture, and the cattle would just come out after milking and graze. And now we've turned that into 1, 2, 3 paddocks on this side of the road and 2 paddocks on the other side of the road, which provides a lot of grazing. We have 100 cows here that'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, and then we'll put them on the fields that we've converted and get another 3 days. So we're grazing 100 cows for about a week on the land.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we got to look for birds, right?
Let's see. So there, you said just about a day in each of these, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We let them in this morning, and either tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how they're doing with the grazing. They were pretty hungry when they went in.
Sure.
So that affects how much they're going to eat today.
Yeah.
And then, we'll just monitor how they're doing. They've filled up now once, and they were laying down, and now they're getting up to do another round.
And then how long will this rest?
Oh, this will rest about 55 days.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll be fully expressed again. You can see over there, that's what we've had. Our grazing plan is every paddock rests between 50 and 60 days. So we get about three grazings in the growing season.
Okay.
It's amazing, the flies are down a little bit because it's cooler. Because normally we have swallows all over the place.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, we have quite a bit of barn swallow action at our place, and you can always tell that when they leave to go back to Mexico, the mosquitoes get out of control.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a noticeable difference when the migration happens and they leave town. So
when do they leave?
It's last year they were gone by the middle of July, and they're still around. What is it, September 2nd, and we still have some that are there.
Oh.
We had gotten a good amount of rain this year, and so I think conditions are different than they were last year. So it's interesting to see different years and different waves and cycles and
yeah, they don't operate on a calendar.
No, they don't. No.
That's I've been noticing that too with the rain that we've had this year, which has been different over the last a lot. We were drier for 3-4 years. And how everything is green yet, and the colors are not changing on the trees yet, and that moisture just keeps things growing longer, which makes sense. But it does change your grazing plan a little bit.
Yeah.
And the plants are washier yet, they're a little water. Whereas usually we're a little more fibrous at this time of year.
Okay. Sure.
And so the gains are actually a little better.
Yeah. Okay.
When you don't have washy plants.
Right. A little bit more nutrient dense.
Yeah. Right.
I'm sure you have noticed the difference in just your relationship with the animals since you guys started doing these movements like this. That's one thing. We have a family ranch that we're helping to take over, and my wife and I are starting to run more. It's always been kind of conventionally grazed, and the animals will know us. We call ourselves pickup truck cowboys because we hit the horn and they come up.
Oh yeah.
But
that's a thing in the South.
Yeah.
It's not around here.
But they're not this, once we get out and walk around, once they've had their treat, they want to go back and be left alone, and they don't the interaction I think you get when you move animals like this Fidelia, and you can notice health characteristics and temperaments and those kind of different things, right? I think that's a huge component of the rotational system that is not, everybody focuses on the soil health or the plant growth or those kind of things, but some of the interactions that our producers can have daily with the animals, I think, is a really amazing benefit of it.
It is, and it's kind of a win-win. They definitely get to know you. They know personalities. We know their personalities.
Right.
They trust, and we trust them. And yeah, you get a really nice symbiotic relationship. And that health component is huge. You're looking at them every day.
Yeah.
And so you can see if there's something going on, or they're kind of needing something, or they're doing great.
Right.
It all becomes very evident if you just watch for it. And, I was explaining earlier, one of our challenges this year is that it was too wet to start grazing. There was nowhere we could really put them, so we just decided to unroll hay longer on sacrificial paddocks and not start grazing, which has its benefits for fertility in the areas we were in. But then we got in, and the grasses were taller everywhere they went than where we normally start. We usually start when grasses are about a little over a foot tall.
Okay.
And this year they were probably more like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then there was some irritation in their eyes and some repercussions from that we were learning from. It was like, well, maybe that wasn't the best thing
idea.
to do. Yeah.
Right.
Because then we never really caught up to it. Because everywhere we went was just a little further along.
Yeah.
So. But this is one of the more picturesque places
It
on
is.
the farm.
This is an amazing shot, that's for sure.
And it never gets old, and
No.
I'm always happy when I usually capture a few shots of cattle for the brand when we're here. And have the water in the background.
Oh, it's just perfect.
Wow, and right over here I just realized, okay, so, there were Native Americans in this area for sure. And the 90-year-old widow remembered her mom telling her stories about Indians coming up and tying their horses right here and fishing.
Really?
Yeah. And so it was kind of tense. They didn't quite, know what to think of it. And of course that uneasiness. But she talked about how there was a boulder that they would tie their horses to.
Okay.
And I thought, I am going to go look for that. So right down here in some brush was a big boulder. And there were metal stakes hammered into the boulder
Really?
to tie their horse to. And I thought, wow, how did all that happen? I don't know. But it kind of brings you back to, treating the land sacredly,
Right.
And yeah, we're the stewards now, and how we got here is whatever you want to think of that. But it just was such a fruitful place, for food.
Yeah.
And that's what I want it to continue to be.
Yeah.
For all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were saying, we just have that little tiny blip on the timeline here, and so to do what you can with what you are available, what you have.
Yeah, that's right. And there are wonderful fish in there. I know why they went fishing here, right, Max? Max, the photographer, my son, caught some nice fish out of there, and so they've been there for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you, Thomas, for going for a walk.
Yeah, thank you, man. I'm always happy to get out and see the place and see the herd. I could just the sound of all of them grazing in unison and not even bothering to care that we were there. I could listen to it all day.
It's my therapy. I got to start the day that way, and I got to end that day that way. And as long as I do that, everything else kind of works itself out. Like it's a mindset of peace that I don't know. At least I experience when I'm around cattle that are grazing and happy and relaxed.
Right.
There's just something about it. So thank you for joining us. I would like to ask you what you see both in people and in practices around this regenerative movement, and through your work at Audubon and outside of Audubon that gives you hope for the future, that that we're moving in a direction that can give us and our listeners some hope.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure working with you and your team and your family. Just means a lot to me how much we've grown the partnership of Audubon and Thousand Hills, and working with your producers and getting to help learn your story and tell your story and help you guys, keep this thing alive and beating and moving forward is
thank you.
One of the great joys of my job is to work with you guys.
And I'd be remiss not to say, this is a love fest all of a sudden, but I'd be remiss if I didn't. I tell everybody else, like the people at Audubon, and first and foremost you, but the people at Audubon not only are smart, but really are driven authentically to make a difference. And you can just tell. I don't know how you select for people like that.
We have got some amazing ones on our team.
You really do.
For sure.
Yeah. You really
it is a great group.
So you make it a joy.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah. To your question, I think, I think back to, I was here, can't remember when you had the last big farm. It was like your producer and supplier appreciation event. And I just remember thinking, it kind of was a similar question was asked to one of the panelists. And I remember thinking to myself, like, man, if we could get everybody to care about their food and care about where their food comes from as much as the people that are here today, that would be an amazing thing for our country and our food systems and our producers and our consumers and everything like that. And so I see that. I see lots of, in different pockets of the country and in different places, that idea of folks caring about where their food comes from, but then learning how that connects us and how that creates a community of consumers and producers, and we're looking out for one another. And just at the beginning of the summer, we did a rancher fly-in to Washington, D.C., where we had ranchers, and your daughter was one of the ones that came along, and the thing, like from our perspective, it was great to tell the Audubon story and to meet different offices and to engage that way. I think the producers, their favorite part was getting to hang out in the morning at breakfast and at night and converse and talk to each other. And what are you doing? And how are you doing that? And I think that's what gives me hope is this regenerative community, like that is growing and folks are making those connections. I remember when I started, there was a grass-fed conference in the Dakotas, and they would talk about how, well, this is the one time a year where everybody that is the outlier in their community gets together and can share and feel good about it. And that feeling just feels like it's growing more to me, that there's more of those producers. And I think that's a big part of our role, is to try to help create that community and connect folks and acknowledge them and tell their stories and say there's an organization out here that, our number one goal is birds and bird habitat and biodiversity, but we want you to be successful and we want you to keep doing the good things you're doing. And we want you to learn. We want to learn from you and we want you to learn from each other. And so that idea of what the regenerative community, I think, is building is really exciting to me. And that gives me hope. And I see it changing every year. And I see more folks involved with it. I see more ways to understand it and more folks that are taking what different pieces from that they see and using that in their lives, or using that in how they, what they do to their front yard, or their backyard garden, or simple things like that. And how can you make a difference if you live in Austin or Houston or Minneapolis? And now finding products that have, certifications on them, like the ACR bird friendly land certification. Like that's a way you buy that package of beef, that money, goes back to the producer, keeps that program going. And you've made a conservation output right there in the grocery store aisle. So I think finding all those different ways, and and again, it's that community. Like I look at some of the producers around us that I know and that I've worked with, and like how they interact and have taught me so much. And I want to be able to empower other folks to make those changes, and I know you guys do too, and try to bring more producers into the fold and increase those opportunities and create more chance for folks to make it in the definitely in the grazing space, but in agriculture in general, and kind of tie that all together.
I like to say we provide a market, but actually the consumers provide the market. We're just the middleman getting the product.
The opportunity, that's how I look at a lot of what my job is as partnerships managers, to help put all these options and opportunities for our certified producers, and then the ones that make the most sense for them. How does that fit their goal? Okay, so I might go down this path, or I might go down that path, but we're working to try to, create the opportunity with at the end of the day, knowing that we're going to do good things for birds and biodiversity and habitat and all of the things that come along from it. So,
well, and consumers really can. I mean, in your space, every consumer can really make a difference.
Sure.
A little bit of pollinator garden, a little bit of support for wild or habitat.
Yep.
You grow a tomato plant, provide a little bit of habitat, buy a little bit of native flower grass.
Be curious. Ask, where does where's you go to a restaurant? Where does the beef come from?
Yes.
And not, where, those are okay questions to ask and find out more of that, and go to your farmer's market and ask the guy, how are you producing these things? What practices are you? Visit websites, you guys do a great job of telling the story of the regenerative renegades on your site and what it means to you and what space, why you're in this space and what you guys are doing. I think that's our role too, is to help.
Right. And just along the lines of beef, it reminds me of the calculation we did once, and it doesn't matter what brand, regenerative beef, whether it's in a restaurant or buying a grocery store, but for every pound that you purchase, you've converted about the area of a school bus to regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
In supporting that. So, that's real. And I know it's real. I see it. The dollars really do make a difference. Voting with your dollars really makes a difference. And it, like I said, it can be brand agnostic and just know what the practices were.
Yeah.
And then convert that land, because we can't convert the land unless there's a market for it.
Unless it's got somewhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, thank you so much
my
for
pleasure,
taking
man.
the time.
I really appreciate it.
It's great having you.
Always great
here.
to come up here and visit with you guys and, meet more members of your family. I got to work closely with Melissa and Mikhail before in the past. So it's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. And you came north at the right month. So you were wise about that. For some months, you don't want to come
That's
north.
very true. Very true. Growing up in Wisconsin, I know well when to stay away. So.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Yeah.
We look forward to talking to you soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Matt.
All right.